Okay, and we are back, and let's get straight into exercise. This video is probably going to get split in two, so if you hadn't seen part one where I talk about diet and mentality, I'd probably recommend that you watch that first and then come back to this where we finish off with exercise and then sleep and stress to cover everything that I know about weight loss, and hopefully that you learn something from this today. So exercise, I'm going to try and keep this as brief as possible, with a nice generalized blanket statement to shock and awe, which is that exercise doesn't really do anything for weight loss. And I can explain that. I think there is a mentality of when people think about starting a weight loss journey, or like New Year's, or upheaval of their life, or changing something drastically, they think about exercise as being a key part of that. The 5 a.m. run, buying new trainers, new gym membership, personal training, new equipment, whatever it may be. Exercise in itself as a burning of extra calories to help you on your weight loss journey is not really going to move the needle as much as you think. Exercise has incredible benefits. Resistance training has incredible benefits to longevity, overall health, immune function, bone health, leg strength, muscle mass, all contribute towards living a longer life. They can do incredible things for your mental health, running, playing sports, increasing your cardiovascular strength, reducing your chance of coronary heart disease. The list is endless. In no way do I recommend that you don't do exercise. But as a pure weight loss function, i.e., I'll burn more calories by going for a run this morning at 7 a.m., or I'll burn more calories by doing a HIIT session, it doesn't really make that much of a difference for compensatory mechanism that I'll explain in a second. And then there's another argument to resistance training and muscle building, which is that people who have more muscle mass burn more energy. Again, not really that much. It's another thing where sort of the theory versus the practicality of it. In theory, they do. If you have more muscle mass, you will burn more energy at rest. But in reality, it's something like, I can't remember the exact figure, but something like 7 calories per pound of muscle. So even if you put on 10 pounds of muscle, which is a significant amount of muscle, you'll burn an extra 70 calories a day, or like 1 digestive biscuit worth. So it's not going to suddenly make you, a furnace. So the reason why, going back to why exercise is not really a fantastic calorie burning mechanism, is because simply put, we compensate for it. So very, very quickly, brief lesson in burning energy. There's kind of 4 ways that we burn energy, the biggest being burning calories at rest. So without you doing anything, even if you were to wake up, lie completely still in bed for 16 hours and then go back to sleep, you will still just burn energy at rest. This is called our resting metabolic rate. And this is or basal metabolic rate, basically just the amount of calories that we burn doing absolutely nothing. You then have something called the thermic effect of food. So this is actually the amount of energy that we use to metabolize food. So to digest and metabolize our food, we do take up energy. And then the last 2, you have physical activity and then non-exercise activity, thermogenesis, and which sounds really complex, but essentially the difference between the 2 is physical activity is the movement that you consciously do, like going to the gym, going for a run, exercising, sport. You burn a certain amount of energy from that. And then the NEAT, the non-exercise activity, thermogenesis, is basically just the energy that you burn from moving around that is not like you're not consciously doing for exercise. So it could be that you just, when you move around, when you walk up the stairs, when you walk around in the kitchen, when you're cooking, when you're washing up the dishes, when you move from room to room. This is all just non-exercise, but you're burning energy, right? You're not exercising, you're not trying to work out, go to the gym, go for a run, but you're still burning calories. And so what we do is we increase our physical activity by exercising more, going to the gym, whatever it may be, going for a run. We do increase the calorie. Of course, we increase the calories that we burn. You can go for a run and burn an extra 250 calories by going for that run in that day. But basically what the research shows is that we compensate for that by then reducing the amount that we burn subconsciously. So we reduce our NEAT, we reduce the amount that we burn without thinking. And it may just manifest to you as feeling sluggish, or I need to go get the remote from the other side of the room, but I can't be bothered. Or I should take the stairs, but I'll just take the lift. Or you just move less. You'll even to the point of, even if I force you to stay still, you may not fidget as much. You just will conserve energy. And so your body compensates for it, especially over time. And so as a purely calorie burning mechanism, it's not gonna really, and it's definitely not to the point where that's what you should prioritize. In the other video I talked about diet being the most important part alongside other things like mentality. Exercise, I wouldn't even put a second. So diet first, maybe mentality, then sleep, stress, then exercise. If you are time poor and you are trying to embark on a weight loss journey, exercise will make you feel like you are doing something. You know, going for a run in the morning makes you feel like you're doing something, and it has other intangible benefits because you do have a sense of achievement. You may even really enjoy the other benefits that exercise brings: cardiovascular strength, physical strength, looking different as well, building muscle mass, reducing subcutaneous fat. You want to lose weight anyway, so you can't outrun a bad diet. But if you do start noticing changes because you're going to the gym and you start building a little bit more muscle or toning up, which toning doesn't actually exist, but toning up, you may get the confidence from that, and that's incredible. And then a whole host of medical benefits, like I said, and longevity benefits. But actually, as a purely weight loss burning mechanism, if you are time poor, I wouldn't focus on exercise. I would much rather people prioritize their mentality, their sleep, their stress, and most importantly, their diet before they then focus on exercise. So, by all means, do it. If you can do it, if you enjoy it, but you can't outrun it. You can't outrun a bad diet. You're not going to be able to, run a marathon and then eat whatever you want forever. That's not going to work. And nor are you going to be able to just get extra calories in. Nor are you going to be able to just burn extra calories and then your body not compensate for that, especially the more intense the exercise gets. So that's why this sort of arbitrary number of 10,000 steps a day is so touted everywhere, because it's kind of a relatively low impact, easy. It takes a lot. It's time consuming, but it's easy to do. It's not going to absolutely drain your energy, and the next day you're going to be sluggish and tired because you've wiped yourself out. So that's one of the reasons why it's kind of a very popular weight loss initiative, because it just doesn't tax your body that much. So there's not as much of a compensatory mechanism, and you still burn calories from it. So yeah, all in all, exercise. A whole host of benefits, but as a purely weight loss driven activity, it's not going to be as effective as you're hoping it would be. Usually the reason why people find that exercise is so important to them, or they think they get results from it, and again, always exceptions to the rule, but in general, people think they get results from it because at the beginning they usually combine it with a diet. So you're dieting and you're exercising, and you think, oh my God, ever since I started doing this exercise, or ever since I went to the gym, I've lost a whole bunch of weight. That's one. Two, it feels good. You get kind of immediate feedback from it. Go to the gym and get a pump and look at yourself in the mirror, and you're getting like instant feedback to what you could look like in a certain amount of time. And there's not many things in life that give you that. If I invest a certain amount of money into a fund or a stock or whatever, it's not going to have an immediate feedback. If I eat a healthy diet, I don't get immediate feedback, but going to the gym, getting a really good sweat on, getting the endorphin release from that, looking at myself and looking like I already look different, you do kind of get immediate feedback, and that's really rewarding. It also just does incredible things for your mental health. So in no way am I not endorsing it. I absolutely endorse it, but I'm just saying, if you are looking at it purely from a weight loss and you hate it, then or you can't prioritize it right now, then just don't, because it's not going to do as much as you think it is. And then that's a relatively good segue onto sleep and stress. And I've kind of put this in one category and I put it at the end, because when I talk to people who are losing weight and struggling with their weight, the number one, I talk about this a lot, especially sleep, because it's something that I've struggled with a lot in my life. Probably can see from my bag, I've not quite solved it yet. I think the reason why I've just kind of left it last is not that its importance isn't high, it's just that it's the one that people seem to struggle the most with changing, especially stress. But even sleep, I'm aware that if you're a new parent, or you have a night shift at work, or your job doesn't allow it, whatever it may be, sleep generally people find very hard to change. But it's also you get such massive amount of results, such big wins from really not that difficult a thing to do. So when you look at changing something, you look at what can I do that's got a low threshold of entry, but a very, very good high reward. And sleeping an hour and a half earlier really does do that. So I really do advocate for sleep especially. Stress is much, much harder to handle. But let's just very briefly go into both. So stress, there is links to show that if you are chronically stressed, so acute stress, chronic stress. Acute stress means there's immediate stress now. A lion has just jumped in front of you. I'm acutely stressed. Completely healthy to be acutely stressed at times. You have a fight or flight response. That's normal. Your body's very used to this. Evolutionarily, we are very used to this as well. That shouldn't really be a problem. Run away from the lion. Chronic stress, which is long-term stress, is kind of like a lower level, constant stress that's almost always there. So it could be that you have a very stressful job, a very stressful home life, you're just generally very anxious, and that's kind of like a low hum of stress all the time. That is quite harmful for us. We're not really meant to be in that kind of state. Our bodies aren't really used to it. What then happens is we release stress hormones too much. So we release hormones like cortisol, which are then linked to things like insulin resistance, and which I know I didn't really touch upon the hormones in the diet section too much because I know it's something that it's a bit more sciencey, and maybe I can do a deep dive on it in later videos, but is something that so increased insulin resistance will then contribute to increased weight. And there's some other scientific mechanisms as well, where hormonal mechanisms, I should say, where increased stress will just increase leptin resistance, insulin resistance, and you will just find it harder to lose weight, and you'll gain weight easier. But reducing chronic stress is quite difficult. So telling someone, can you not just reduce your stress? No, I've got two kids. I have a busy job. I don't know how to reduce my stress. The only one thing that I would recommend for it, and the thing that's worked for me and for people that I've helped in the past, is I think there is a misunderstanding of how to reduce stress. So I think a lot of us sit down in the evening, stick Netflix on, and think, this is my de-stressing time. Put Netflix on, de-stress. Or we go for a walk, for example, listen to some music, put a podcast on, again, de-stressing. I think a lot of stress in today's day and age is related to our consumption of something. So we are overstimulated to social media, to information, to emails, to WhatsApps, to text messages. There's just a lot of things coming at us all at once, stimulating brain activity, thoughts, anxieties, worries, reminders. And so when you sit down to watch Netflix in the evening, or you go for a walk and you listen to a podcast, whilst we think that is a de-stressing activity, usually, how many times have you sat down and put Netflix on, but you're still on your phone, or you still got it with you, or when that light ding comes up, you still look and check? So you're not really unplugging, you're not really de-stressing, you're still checking the things that you normally check. If you go for a walk and you listen to a podcast, how many times does it trigger thoughts about your life, about things that you want to do? Oh my God, it is really warm in here. So I think that stress, chronic stress, does come about from our environments and the things that we have access to. And so my recommendation to people when I tell them to de-stress is to literally do an activity that forces you to unplug from everything. And so for me, for example, I took up tennis again recently. It was something I played a decade ago, didn't play it for ages, restarted it. So for that hour and a half, whatever it is, when I'm playing tennis, I'm focusing on my breathing, my shots, the technique. I don't check my phone, I don't look at anything, I have no distractions, I can't really think about anything else because I'm literally just trying to play the game. And that allows me to, when I finish those sessions, I feel completely de-stressed. Whereas if I was to go for a walk and put some music on or podcast on, I usually just end up with a reminder of things that I need to do and kind of come back. Yeah, great, I've had some physical activity, I've had some fresh air, but I usually just come back with like a bit of a feeling of, I've got this and this and this to do. If I sit down and watch Netflix in the evening, most of the time I'm on my phone as well, and I'm not really distracted. But doing an activity that completely takes your mind off of something, where you are cut off and you don't have any access to anybody, or people don't have access to you, and your thoughts are distracted, that actually is quite de-stressing. When you come out of that, you do have an endorphin release and you feel much better. That is really valuable. And then if you compare that with physical activity, then you're also doing something that will improve your health. So you're getting fitter and healthier whilst you are de-stressing, and that's the dream. And people say, I can't play a sport. It could be anything. You could dance, you could do a class that, a Zumba class or a yoga class or something where you are focusing on something else and you have to focus on something else to complete it. And at most, if it's not a physical activity, but it's something else entirely, fair enough as well. I mean, people do things like gaming or play board games or anything where you're completely separate. You put a VR. I know somebody that lost a whole bunch of weight, got fitter, healthier, and de-stressed they bought a VR headset and they played games on it. They did boxing, they did table tennis, they moved, they were distracted, they can't see their phone, and a whole host of benefits. And that's really all I can say for chronic stress, because it's not something that is easy to do, easy to help, easy to improve, but there is small things that you can do in it, and that would be my recommendation. If you don't have something in your life that completely unplugs you from your daily, day-to-day activities, notifications and information, then try that. And if you compare it with something that then gets your heart beating and you breathing fast, even better. And then sleep. So sleep is just a huge factor to weight loss. Poor sleep has been shown time and time again in all of the research to contribute to increased weight gain and weight retention. When we don't sleep, it seems like we have areas in our brain that then are deprived of energy, and then they seek energy-rich foods, so you're looking at your junk foods. Apparently, we also have a shift in our olfactory area, so we can almost smell, sounds a bit crazy, but we can almost smell like sweet and saltier things better when we're deprived of sleep, because we're seeking out energy-rich foods. So basically, when you have really poor sleep, you kind of get increased cravings, and you want to eat more junk food, and you want to eat more foods that are energy dense and rich. Other factors as well, when you have reduced sleep, you then also have increased levels of stress hormones, so that also increases your resistances. And generally, poor sleep promotes poor recovery, poor muscle recovery. It's harder to, you feel groggier, you feel more rubbish as well. It's harder to exercise. And so all in all, sleep massively, massively impacts your weight. And actually, I say people really can't change it, and that's because, a lot of people are at a point in their lives where maybe the kids wake them up in the middle of the night, or they, like I said, the night shift workers, or their job prevents it, whatever. But for a lot of people, just even going to bed an hour earlier is going to make a difference. And it's really hard because people feel like it's a vicious cycle. They're stressed, they need that downtime in the evening, or they put the kids to bed, they want to watch TV for a little bit to unwind, and then they end up sleeping later, then they get poorer sleep, and et cetera, et cetera. We commute more, and, we're on our phones more. But it's a big win if you can just literally get to sleep an hour earlier or an hour and a half earlier, because improvement in sleep will drastically help you in your weight loss journey, and good quality sleep as well. The solution to improving sleep, multitude of things. But they basically will cover caffeine, alcohol, not too much food before bed, not too much liquid before bed, because you don't want to be waking up because you need to go to the toilet. And the most important one is not suppressing your melatonin from blue light, so from screens like phones and laptops and things like that. Caffeine and alcohol are quite obvious, so don't drink alcohol too late, don't drink caffeine too late. So you want to try and have your last cup of coffee maybe around 1 to 2 p.m. depending on what time you go to sleep. But remember, the more coffees that you have in that time, you are building on the amount of caffeine that you're in. So if you drink a coffee at 8 a.m. or 9 a.m. or whatever, and then the half-life of that is about 10 hours, so it starts coming down after a few hours, but then you have another coffee on top, and then it shoots back up, and then it starts coming down, and you have another coffee on top. Essentially, it's possible that by the time you've gone to sleep, you've actually got about one cup of coffee's worth, one cup of coffee's worth of caffeine in your system by the time you sleep. So it's the equivalent of having no coffees and then just having a cup of coffee right before you go to bed. So think about as well how many coffees you're having, but definitely how late the last one is. And I'm always going to find somebody who goes, I can drink 2 espresso shots right before bed and sleep. Great, that's great for you. But like I said in the first video, this is a generalization, and there's always going to be exceptions to the rule. Those people who drink 2 shots of coffee and then 2 shots of espresso before bed and then have a great night's sleep probably could have an even better sleep if they didn't do that. It clearly just doesn't affect them that much. And there are some people who caffeine may not have any effect of, or their tolerance is really high. But for most people, caffeine, alcohol, you want to avoid it. Big, close to bedtime. Big meals also close to bedtime. Your stomach's going to be digesting a lot, can affect your sleep quality. It's not going to massively move the needle. If you come home late from work and you eat a big meal, you can still go to bed early and have a good night's sleep. But something to think about. But by far and away the most important is blue light exposure. So the light from our phones, the light from our laptops, the light from our televisions, the closer you are, the worse, because you're exposing yourself more, suppresses our melatonin. And so melatonin is a natural hormone that is secreted in our body to help us sleep and give us a good night's sleep. It's meant to follow the circadian rhythm, so like the natural waking of, natural rising and setting of the sun, which is how our sleep cycle is regulated against. If we are looking at our phones right before we sleep constantly, we are going to have a poorer night's sleep. And it's really common to do because a lot of us are still on our phones right up until the point we go to bed. Some people are scrolling through social media or Instagram as they sleep, and it affects the quality of your sleep, and it takes you longer to go to sleep because you're suppressing the hormone in your body that is usually putting you to sleep. So my recommendation for people is usually shut off all blue light, phones, TV, laptops about an hour and a half before you want to go to bed. Trying to dim the lights a little bit, try and make the lighting a little bit sleepy, I guess you could say, and it ties into the stress thing. Do an activity that is going to distract you. Read a book, play a board game, talk to your partner. I don't know for some people if that's de-stressing or stressing, but something that is not involving screens. And it may not work the first day, second day, third day, but you will start to find, if you do it consistently, that within an hour or so, your body just starts to feel a little bit more tired, your eyes still feel a little bit sleepy, you start yawning a little bit more, and you're ready to go to bed, and you probably will sleep faster and quicker. It's really, really hard to do this consistently. We live in a society which is just, it's so difficult to stay away from your phones close to bedtime, and people do it and they say it works, but 2 weeks later they're kind of back to how they were. But you can try and find some sort of balance there. But if you are seriously considering losing weight, you need to optimize your sleep as much as you can. And I understand that it's not an easy thing to do, but it will reap huge rewards and benefits. I think that is everything. So overall, it's mentality, diet, exercise, sleep, stress. It's a broad overview of sort of a very brief and generalized overview of everything that I think contributes the most to weight gain. So it's the things that I think you could work on, and we could all work on to help us lose weight, but most importantly to maintain weight loss. That's it. Please leave comments. I would love to know what people find interesting or want to know more about, or if they find it useful, and I will try and do some more videos to help people with this kind of thing. But I hope you found it useful. Hope you enjoyed it. Speak to you all very soon.